Welcome
to the Solstice Bloom Recovery Podcast.
Solstice X Bloom Recovery Podcast. Today, our wonderful guest, Megan G, is on with us today, and we're happy to have her. I've known Megan for a long time. We've both known Megan you've known her for even longer than I have. We met her in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. She's a wonderful person. She has some long-term sobriety. And our first female sober guest on the podcast. Wanted to bring some more women on the podcast to share their experience, strength, and hope.
I'm actually the only woman that's ever sober.
That's ever been sober.
Yeah.
In your entire life, in all of existence.
Yeah, just my life.
Just your life. So welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on. So we're gonna start formatting the podcast into kind of like what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. Just a regular kind of pitch, and then there's gonna be lots of crosstalk.
Incredible.
Why don't you walk us through your life?
My life.
What led you to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous?
Yeah, what was it like? The one thing I like is that that's different with you than a lot of other people is that you got sober at a very, very young age.
Well, I originally got sober.
Got sober.
I originally got sober at 15, and then got sober at 19.
Okay, gotcha.
My first AA meeting, I was just thinking about this because I spoke at a meeting recently. I remember going, it was this gross meeting hall. I was 15 years old, and I don't know why they were taking me out of this treatment center. I was like, we're allowed to go outside? This is so exciting. But I remember the lighting was so bright, and it just had this weird smell in there because there was old people.
It sounds like Studio 12.
It actually gave more of a Valley Club.
Okay.
So the setting of it was more like Valley Club, but with more space. And then there was in the corner of this room was the podium and this stage. And I didn't listen at all. And then they gave me a book afterwards, and people were signing it and writing their numbers in it. And I was like, no, I don't want your number. I'm not interested in this meeting. It kind of gave me cult stuff. And I just remember all I was excited about was just being out of the house. But I got that AA book, and I remember being in the van afterwards and opening it up. And I didn't open it up to any other pages besides the names and people signing it. And I was like, this is gross. I just didn't like it at all. I was like, this is not for me. I'm here to appease my parents and not get shipped off to some long-term treatment center. And that was about it. But my mom, this was so funny. When I got to treatment, my mom brought my dog in the car, and he was I think 7 at the time. And she was like, okay.
Floyd?
No. My family dog, Max.
Okay, gotcha.
And so it was my aunt and my mom and me, and we're all in this car, and we pull up to the treatment center, and they're just stay in the car, and I'm sitting there going through my phone for the last time, writing down numbers for I don't know why. On this little notebook that they threw away immediately. And all of a sudden my dog, I was like, what's that smell? The dog shit everywhere in the car. And so my last couple minutes of freedom I spent cleaning up dog shit. And I got in there, and I was asking my mom, I was like, is this rehab? And she was like, no. I was like, it says rehabilitation out there. She's like, it's not rehab though. I was like, what are you talking about? And she did all this stuff and denied that I was in rehab for the longest time, which I thought was so funny. I was like, I don't just admit it. But yeah, I walked into the center, and there was people my age and and younger, and I remember thinking this is not, I just have a drug issue. I didn't have a problem with alcohol. I wasn't an alcoholic.
What kind of drugs were you using by that point?
It was anything I could get my hands on. I stole a bunch of pills from my dying aunt when I was in Arizona, who was dying of cancer, and I was like, that's incredible, because now she has morphine, she has oxys and all these things. So I just put them in my bag and then left. And I was doing a lot of ecstasy. Shit was really fun. I think that was like
how
not.
does a 15-year-old get their hands on ecstasy? I guess it's easy.
Yeah, it's not that
hard.
It's not hard. I remember like the first time like I drank, like I think the story is always so ridiculous. I like took a taxi to a party. So I told my mom we're going to the movies, and me and my friend ended up taking a taxi to like this party. And I was like, okay, the movie is 2 hours long, so we have 2 hours to get to the party, do what we want to do, and take a taxi back. And at the same time, like I didn't have a lot of money, so I was like, how do I have enough money to do what I need to do, right? We get to this party, and we like share this Four Loko, and that's just like the beginning and the end of my like using career. And
Four Loko.
It was great. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. I just wanted something that was going to black me out immediately. I didn't want to be like tipsy or like just a little stoned. I had no desire just for that. I wanted to be like just completely obliterated. And we go to this party, and we're sharing it, and then she like takes like a water bottle and like chugs it, and it was full of vodka, but she was already wasted at that point, so she didn't know. And then we ended up having to take her to the hospital and get like her stomach pumped. And I remember thinking like, dude, this girl is such an alcoholic. Like, holy shit. Can't hang out with her. This is bad news. And she's like now like a teacher in New York and doing like so well for herself, and I'm, you know, an Alcoholics Anonymous. Doing a fucking podcast.
Hey, neither of those things are bad things.
But yeah, and so it kind of just like progressed from there. I liked that like chaotic energy. I think like when I was getting high, it was like during like the Tumblr era, and like Drake and his like YOLO song, and that was like, oh my god. That's the motto of life. And
that's the motto.
Truly, I was like, that's like such good advice. YOLO. Everything is YOLO now. Which is so cringe. So I just kind of like set out, and I was like, if I'm going to like use drugs and alcohol, I just want to like do everything. Like, what's the point of like not trying at all? That was my mentality. And so I set out like that, and then it just turned into like overdoses here and there, and like hiding, like a lot of like, of course, like hiding things from my parents.
Did you get caught? Did you and your parents took her to the hospital, or you took a taxi or called the ambulance and you went to the hospital and then had to call your parents?
I called an ex-boyfriend, and I called an ex-boyfriend while he was with his new girlfriend, because I didn't know what to do, because she was like in a bush. Like just completely in it. We couldn't get her out, and I was like, I've never been in this situation before. I don't know what to do. I was really pissed off because I was like, this is like ruining my night. And I called an ex-boyfriend. He came, he picked us up, and I think he took us back to the mall. I think that's what happened. Just like dropped us off at the mall, and
she
then
got her stomach pumped.
No, we went to the mall first, and then I think I called my mom. And I told my mom, because I was like, if I tell my mom that we were out drinking and using, I'm never going to get this opportunity again. And that cannot be the case. And so I told her that some guy gave my friend some like weird drink or pill or something like that, and she took it. And so they were like, oh my God, this girl has been like roofied or like drugged. I had to talk to police officers. And I remember my mom being like, did you drink? Did you do anything? I was like, no. Like, just deny. Like, double down on all my lies in that moment, just so I can have that experience again. Didn't matter that there was like this girl in the hospital who was getting her stomach pumped and like had alcohol poisoning. And I didn't even know what that honestly truly meant at the time. And I was just like, well, that I can't let that situation ruin all the things that I have planned. I have a schedule now, and I have to abide by it. Like, I couldn't. Yeah, and so I think from there, my mom, like, mainly my mom, because my dad wasn't really like around as much because he traveled a lot for work. My mom would ask me like every like couple of days, like, do you like use like drugs and alcohol? And I would look at her and I'd be like, how dare you? Like, no.
Just gaslighting
Immediately gaslighting. And I was like, why would you ever think I would do something like that? Like, you've told me before that I'm adopted, and she told me that my biological mom was an alcoholic. I'm like, you know that I have like alcoholism that runs my genes. Why would I ever risk that? And she'd be like, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry. And then I would go into like this full like rage moment of just like seeing red and like just basically like a tactic to like push her away pretty much. And to stop asking me those questions. And instead she would like go and ask my brother those questions later. She'd be like, do you know anything about Megan? What is she doing? Why is she acting this way? And he'd be like, I don't fucking know. Just, I'm ignoring it. Yeah, and then eventually over some time, it got pretty obvious, and I started acting like absolutely psychotic. And I mean, it started with like stealing a whole bunch of things, stealing money, cards missing, cash missing, jewelry missing. All these things were starting to go, and then it would just be me lying and gaslighting people, of course. And then it turned into like slamming, like loudly slamming doors, breaking doors, holes in walls, not coming home, and just like this vicious cycle of like me getting like progressively like just more
You were a
violent.
Kyle. You were a Kyle.
I was a Kyle.
Putting holes in walls.
Dude, I was
drinking
oh my God.
monsters.
I was like a Kyle and a Chad. It was horrible. It was so gross.
Giga Chad Megan.
It was so gross. And I like wasn't going to school. I think I had like something like 200 and something absences in one like year. I don't even know how. I think they do it by class, and my mom used to get the phone call of like, Megan has been missing from periods 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And she's like, why are you going to period 4? It like got to that point where she's like, what are you even doing there? Yeah, I just like wasn't going to school and like just getting high and like just vibing, and I loved it. Like I loved getting high. I loved like the chaos around it. I loved being so fucked up and like coming to and like random places being like, damn, how did I get here? That's sick. Like I thought that was like actually like, some people don't like that. I thoroughly enjoyed like blacking out, coming to, and then disappearing again, and then being like in the back of someone's car being like, who are you guys? Like and I think I was like watching like, you know, the TV show Skins.
Yeah. The UK version? Or the American
the UK version, of course.
Of course.
I was like watching that. I'm like, oh my God, this is like so me. And like wanting to like live that like lifestyle. And I was like, it's fine. Like, I don't need school. I don't need anything. I'm just going to become like this drug dealer and like make so much money and like be able to like use drugs whenever I please. Like that was like the future if I got there. And the last like night before I like got sent to rehab, I was like, I think I only had like a Vicodin on me and like DMT. and and I remember there was like a family dinner, which was like every night. That was like normal, and I just like didn't want to go because I was like already fucked up, and I was like, I can't. I'm like too fucked up that they're gonna notice.
You were smoking DMT?
Yeah. I like thoroughly enjoyed being like not in reality, because
That's
my
crazy.
reality in my head was like so horrible.
It was a family dinner at the rehab, or
No,
at your
home. At home.
You're like, you
At
guys ready to
home.
get weird?
When you smoked DMT, did you see the racist aliens?
No, Eric.
No? Okay. Never mind. It's a common thing. Like,
Wait, Eric, are you an alien?
Yeah. No, it's a common thing. Like when you smoke DMT, like the roof of wherever you're smoking DMT peels back, and then aliens are looking over at you, and a lot of times they're racist.
No, Eric.
Racist aliens.
I've never met.
In your case, would they be anti-Semite aliens?
Yeah, maybe. You know.
I'm just curious if it like goes both ways.
Anyways,
Don't shake
go
me
ahead.
off.
Anyways, no. I guess like the only thing I've heard before is like seeing the color that you can't describe, or like seeing like elves or whatever.
Okay.
I've had that experience where I saw racist elves. No, I remember like being like super high, and I fell off like a little ledge or whatever, and like I turned to the side, and there's like this little like creepy like elf thing like trying to like have me follow it, and I was so terrified. I was like, no, I will not. I think I only experienced bad trips. I don't think I ever had a pleasant trip, but my reality was so like messed up that the bad trip was the pleasant trip. I like saw like people in like cloaks and like I was like, oh my god, the devil was here. I was like, this is crazy. Just don't look at them. I remember there was like a lot of internal dialogue that was happening of like, don't do that. You're breathing weird.
A lot of people
Time
also
to
see
breathe.
a lot of people also see the mantis people on DMT. It's like praying
What?
mantis people. Anyways,
What do you live in an episode of Rick and Morty?
I was just
Like
saying.
what? What are
I'm
you
just saying-
talking about?
I'm just saying there's a bit. Anyways, but
Where are you reading this?
We're getting back to the point here of Megan was at family dinner,
Yeah.
high on DMT.
And no, I wasn't high on DMT yet. I was like, I took like a bunch of Vicodin and like I think I smoked weed that day or something. And I just like didn't want. I was being combative. Didn't want to go to dinner. And then like I like full psychosis mode went and wrote down on the back of my door all these people I wanted to just murder. Wrote down like all these names like a psychotic like
That's like
You went
Hitless.
Columbine.
Crazy.
like
You were going
full
Columbine.
Columbine, like, but it was just like psychosis and
I had some guy at the sober living here, Solstice, do the same thing, except he wrote like this huge on the back of his door. He wrote like this huge prayer of like, "Save, please, Jesus, save Cameron too." Like, oh, dude, that was his name. Like, please help him. Like, you know, God forgive me. Like, it was crazy. Like, full on. It
was like a manifesto.
Like like on the back of the
Manifesto.
door, like where he was like talking to God, but like and writing on the door. I'm just like, that's insane.
We've had a couple experiences like that.
Oh yeah,
like,
a few of them. Yeah.
Matt.
Oh man,
Dude,
Matt would just like have
yell.
full on conversations with God in his room. It was
But they
crazy.
weren't like, "Hey, so how are you?" They were like, "Dude, shut up." You know, like he'd be yelling, and you're like, "Oh my god, dude!
Yeah.
Like we're gonna die in our sleep tonight."
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
like it's crazy.
barricade the doors.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my
yeah.
god. I had underneath like the
The list of all the people
underneath
you
the
want
list
to kill.
of people there was like inhale the bullshit, like what is it, inhale the good shit, exhale the bullshit from like Tumblr.
Yeah.
Underneath all this like psychotic like writing, I was like, my uncle had to come and like paint the door and my mom was so embarrassed
I would have
about
kept
it.
it. I would have kept the door, you know, for memories.
My mom, when I went to treatment, she redid my whole room. She was like, one, I have to find all the drugs, and two, my daughter has like a hit list on the back of her door that like it needs to be removed.
How many drugs did she find?
You know, surprisingly, she was able to find everything, and I was very good at hiding stuff.
Okay.
But she like she probably talked to somebody. I never really asked her, but I remember her coming to treatment one day, like on like family day. She was like, "What was that like weird crystal stuff in like the vial?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like
It was meth, Mom.
I don't know what that is.
Someone gave it to me.
Someone gave
They're
it to
prayer
me.
crystals.
I think I told her, I was like, I'm just selling stuff. I think that's what it was. I'm like, I'm just selling things. I needed money. And she was like, what? Which I was at the time. I was actually selling DMT.
Were your parents like kind of naive to the scene of like drugs and alcohol?
I don't
Because
think
my
that-
dad was a hippie, like dropped LSD,
Okay.
followed
Yeah.
around the Grateful Dead. Like he knew what was up. So there was no like hiding it, you know? There
Yeah.
was no like talking. He knew like I was full of shit whenever I'd try to, you know, lie to him.
Yeah.
So was it like similar? Like, did they know too, or?
I mean, like my dad in like college, like experimented with like acid and like smoked weed, and like my mom smoked weed twice and she had such a bad experience that she thought it was laced with PCP and like tried to have her parents take her to the hospital. It was like I was like, oh god, that's so
Parents are like, you
lame.
lightweight, like.
Like, and so she wasn't. My parents were more like in denial because I grew up with like that, like our problems are kept inside the house, do not share them outside. And it was just like deny. Like the best example is like this happened a couple years ago. My family went to my cousin's wedding, and my dad, my mom, and I got into one of the worst public fights I've ever like experienced in my life. Where like we don't swear in our house. My mom hates it, but we were all screaming and like pointing fingers, like "fuck you," like as loud as we can in front of my cousin's wedding. Dude, it was so bad. And
Why were you
then
guys fighting?
What'd you do?
We were running 2 minutes late, and my dad struggled with like anger issues, and like in the past like 10 years has like he went to like therapy, he did all the things that he needed to do, which was fantastic. He's had like maybe like 3 episodes, and that's one of them. And it's like fine, it's like whatever he needs like in those situations, like for us to support him, like of course, and like how to like help him, like obviously like not get to that extent, right? But we got there. We got to the extent, and there's all these like, it's chaotic, it's crazy. My dad's throwing keys, my mom's like holding on to him. It was fucking crazy, dude. But we get to the wedding, and my mom's like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. No, it's like, okay. I'm like, what? Everything's fine. Nothing's okay. And my brother's like, what the hell is going on? My dad isn't even there. He left. He didn't even show up. And my mom is just like pretending. And that is like the perfect example of like how it was my family. Dad gone, mom pretending and not acknowledging anyone's like feelings or anything like that. And, or even her own.
That's a lot of like how it was like in my family too. Is I have these like vivid memories of like my family just getting in huge fights, or my dad like before we go to like a family dinner or something yelling at me like so loud, and getting so angry because he also deals with anger issues, and then when we get there and we get out of the car, we just pretend everything is okay.
You just have to fake it.
You just gotta fake it, like, because what are you gonna do, like not pretend, They just like keep being angry at each other, and then it ruins the whole vibe of whatever event that you're going to. And I know the vibe's already ruined for you guys, but you don't have to ruin it for the other people. But it's also just like you got to put on this like facade of like, we're the perfect family, everything's okay, nothing's wrong, like we do everything perfectly, you know.
Yeah, and that's how it was. It was like that every single day in like my household of like just like pretending and like constantly internalizing and like just like shoving everything I can possibly down. And so my mom was like in this big denial and like didn't want to like admit it. And I think a lot of people called her out for it during that time. I remember even a teacher called my mom and was telling her like, I think your kid's on drugs. And my mom's like, could not be my kid. And here I am.
You're like at the dinner table next to her, like railing a line. Like, not my daughter.
Not her.
My daughter. Not little Meg.
So they were just like in denial. I think my dad was more on top of it than my mom was, but my dad worked so much and like was traveling so much that he was like not able to do that, and at the same time had such gnarly anger issues that like it would have not been helpful. But the last day we were going into family dinner, I like refused to go, and then I ended up going, and then I like went back into my room, I write down all this stuff, and like then I like end up like self-harming. I'm like trying to like smoke DMT out of like the bottle that it came in, and like you really can't be doing that. And like I'm like desperately trying to get high, and my parents are banging on my door. I've like barricaded it, and I think at one point I like tried like putting a lock on my door by taking a lock from another room and putting it on my door, but I couldn't figure it out, so like wouldn't open properly. And they come in, and then there's like this huge like just fight, and it's like between me and my dad, and my mom is like trying to manage and control how the fight is going, and my brother is just like being traumatized in his room by all this, and then eventually it's like me and my dad getting in each other's faces, and like it like me like getting like physical with everyone around me and anything around me, and then my mom called, I think like a hotel, and she like took me to a hotel, and I remember like packing my bags, and I was like trying to also at the same time get like emancipated. I don't even know what I was doing. I was just like, I need to be an adult to make my own decisions. And I remember like bringing my drugs and like trying to continue that in the hotel, and coming out and being like, it's fine, whatever, I'll get high at school tomorrow or whatever. And I go to school, and I have, since I packed my backpack I have all these drugs in my backpack, and I'm just like paranoid as fuck about that. And I'm like walking around school, and then eventually I get like a call from the dean's office. Like the dean, one of those people come in, take you on the golf cart, and you like go to the principal's. And I was like, fuck, this is it, guys. And I was like, I'm about to be arrested or something. And I remember going and like asking like some random girl who I really wasn't friends with to like can you hold my Pookie for me? She was like, what? No. That was like the first time in a long time I felt like shame around what I was doing. And I was like, oh, like I can't handle this. So I go to the principal's office and my mom's there. And I was like, well, I'm not getting arrested. This is really good news. And she's like, we're going, your therapist suggested this like place and I want you to come check it out with me. And I was like, what? So I get in the car with her because I was just stoked to be able to leave school, honestly. I get in the car with her and we're like driving and I'm like, damn, this is a long fucking drive. And I was like, looked at her, I was like, where are you taking me? She's like, I'm just taking you to a place, so you're gonna check it out. And I was like immediately like, oh, hell no. And I am like freaking out in the car. I'm like turning on the radio, blasting it to like freak her out, and like she's turning it down. I'm like trying to open the car door like on the freeway like a psycho. And I'm like throwing this like fucking tantrum, like a full-blown tantrum at 15. And we get to this like Delamo psych ward. And I see my dad there, and mind you, we just had this huge fight, and I was like, fuck no. And I get out of the car and I start just like walking, and they are trying to like help me come back in, and it just like wasn't working. So 2 police officers came and got me, and from what that like it turns into I think like a 5250 to 5150 at that point. And I was like, fuck. So these 2 police officers come in and I'm signing these paperwork and I'm like trying to convince this like admissions lady. I've worked in treatment now, so it's like that woman can't help you in any single way, but I'm like trying to convince her. I'm like, I don't need to be here. And she's like, okay, just like sign this form. And I'm like, this is so annoying. And then I walk in and the door's closed. Like I see my mom and my dad and they're just like crying. I was just like, fuck you guys. Like, and I go in and I remember this was kind of like, I was still surrounded with like this feeling of shame from earlier. And they ask you to like strip down and like they mark all the places that you have stuff on you, right? Like a piercing, a cut, scars. And I was just riddled with like cuts all over me. And I remember her like marking one by one. And I was just like naked with this person I don't know, which has never happened to me at that point in that situation. And I was just like not understanding how I got to that point. I was like, this is like obviously super degrading. I'm like full of shame, but like I don't really understand how I even got here. And then I like go, they like give me meds or whatever, and like, and I'm in the psych ward, and I'm like, by day 2 I was like pushing the drug test, and I was like, I can't pee, I can't do this, like doing what we all do, right? And because I didn't want them to report to my parents what I was using. I was like, it's fine if like weed's in my system, can't do anything about that, but I can't have anything else. And I forgot that they took my blood, so they found out everything immediately. And then I just like started like trying to like cheek Benadryl, like snorting Benadryl in like the bathrooms and like just anything to like feel any sort of way. I could not handle being sober, and I like didn't understand that either. I was just like, it feels so good to be high. Why would I want to be sober? Like I just don't understand that. Like I'm miserable. I was miserable before when I was not using drugs, and I feel a little bit better when I'm using drugs, but I'm still miserable. Why would I want anything to change? And I had like all these episodes in the psych ward, of course, and I got on an extended 5150, which turns into like a 5254 or something, where like the state now has you. And because I had to wait for a bed for treatment. And at the same time I had this like massive eating disorder as well. And I remember like I think it was like day 5 in the psych ward, I was like sober, and I was like, I'm fucking hungry, man. Like, I called my mom. I was like, get me in and out. Get me this. Get me that. And she was like, okay, whatever you need. And she's like such an enabler. She was just like, whatever she needs to stay here, I'll get her whatever. And and that's kind of how it went. And then I ended up going to the treatment center with, my dog shitting in the car. And I get into this treatment center, and I fucking hated everything. I was just like, this is such bullshit. And I ended up running away twice. And the last time I ran away, I was like telling all the counselors, I was like, I'm really going to give this thing a try. I'm really going to give this sobriety thing and this 12-step thing a try. Also, I thought you worked the 12 steps by yourself. No idea. And I ended up like running away and overdosing. And I remember walking back onto the treatment site and being like, obviously, like I was like falling over and just like violently ill, and like all these things were happening. And they're like begging me to tell me. They're like, "What did you take?" And I was like, "All right, I like took like 32 pills of like Robitussin or something like that."
Oh my god!
And they're like,
Mucinex DM.
yeah, like or this triple C's or whatever.
Yeah. Oh
and,
my god, triple C's.
And I accidentally took
I don't remember what it stands for. It's like
cold cough congestion.
Yeah, but it's like I forget what's in it. It's like corticetin or
Is that over the counter?
Cortisol?
It's something like that. I don't know. But they get you high for sure.
Okay.
They're really easy to steal too.
Yeah, you just.
I mean, they're really hard to steal. Don't try it.
Okay.
But I took the heart medication one. So there's one that has like heart medication in it, like something, I don't know. And go to the hospital and they're like, I remember asking like at one point, like before I like faded into the abyss, of course, I was like, am I gonna die? And they're like, yeah, we don't know. I was like, okay. And my dad was there. My mom was out of town. She's like flying home from Chicago at the time. And my dad he was so supportive during that time. He didn't make me feel like shameful at all of like what happened. And I think he got it. His stepdad was a gambling addict, and so he kind of understood like addiction, and I think he understood it better than my mom did. And I remember being in this hospital, and I was there for 3 days, and just like I shit myself. Fully shit myself in the bed.
I've done that in sobriety.
And I remember,
Really?
dude, I did it last week.
Yeah.
You shit yourself in the bed in sobriety?
Not the bed, but I've shit my pants in sobriety like
Eric,
2 or 3 times.
It's a thing that you have to do to keep your sobriety. So you have to shit yourself.
It's a part of
No,
the
you know
12
what?
steps,
You know what?
Yeah.
Actually, I did shit my pants in sobriety the other day, or in the bed. It was about almost 2 years ago now.
Clip this.
I had this really bad food poisoning, and I thought it was a fart.
Of course.
And I was in my bed, and I'm wearing these like polyester, boxer briefs.
Nice.
Like
Velours.
spandex.
Yeah, and I'm just like in my bed, and like of course it just like comes out like it's a fart, and it just comes out liquid straight out of my asshole.
That's usually how it works.
through my boxer shorts and onto my bed sheets, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
I mean, here's the question:
And
do you
you're
go to
just like,
sleep
I'll deal
after?
with it.
Yeah.
I'll deal with it in the morning.
No,
Do you
man.
wipe or let it crust?
You gotta sleep in it, man. You just get it. You gotta double it or give it to the next person. Anyway, so you shit your pants?
Yeah, dude, I shit myself, and like I had a suicide watch lady because they were like, maybe she tried to kill herself. I was like, no, I'm telling you guys, it was really just trying to get high.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh,
Dude, if I'm
What's
dead,
that
how am I going to
smell?
get high?
yeah, dude. She was like, what's that smell? And I was like, like, I have no idea. I was like, Bugs Life plays in the background.
Way to paint the picture.
This was in the rehab center?
No, this was in the hospital.
The mental ward?
No, like I
regular
so
hospital.
When I overdosed, so they'll put you.
Okay, gotcha.
Since I had like medical issues after the overdose, they didn't send me back to a psych ward. They kept me alone with like a suicide watch lady.
Okay, gotcha.
And then I shit myself with the Bugs Life, and that I watched for 3 days straight. I like didn't know to change the channel. I was like, I guess this is my life now.
Did you change your pants?
I like got up and like it was difficult because I was hooked up to so much stuff.
She was in a gown.
I was in it.
Gown.
I was in a gown. I had like 2 IVs in me and like all this stuff, like the EKG stuff, like the machine with me. And I had to like wheel myself like into the bathroom. And I look at my hair, dude. My hair was okay. I had like hair that was like down to my hip. it was like just matted in the back.
Oh my
and
God.
just like kind of like made my hair like stick up like this. I just looked like an absolute freak. And
Absolutely feral.
dude, so gross. I was so gross looking. And I like was I was still like fucked up. So I was like trying to like clean myself off, and then I just like she's like, "Oh, I'll get someone to change this or something." And I was like,
They deal with
Cool.
that. They deal with it all the time in the hospital. It's
Yeah.
craziness.
Yeah,
And-
sometimes I just do it for fun.
Yeah.
I'm in there for a tummy ache, and I'm like, boop, thanks.
So what? At what point did you say? At what point were you like, "This is enough. I'm gonna take sobriety seriously"?
I think at that moment, I like when I was in the hospital, I was like, I don't know if I have any other choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I also was very scared that, hello, let's fucking fly. I was also like really scared that, one, I'd be sent away to a long-term facility.
Mm-hmm.
And two, that it was never going to be the same.
Yeah.
Right? And my parents take me home, and I think like 30 days in, I like started going to this like outpatient treatment center, and I was like trying to take it seriously because I was so nervous I was just gonna like, I don't know, die. But it was like this weird thing of like, I don't care if I die, but I also didn't want to die, because the middle ground was like, I just want to get fucked up all the time and like let that be the state that I live in. And I go to this outpatient center, and I like, in about like 30 days in, I did like a whip it. I like, there was a whipped cream can and my parent, like in the fridge, and I was just like, I didn't really think that meant anything. But then I didn't tell anybody about it for years. I lied about it for years. I was like, I don't remember the date that I did it on, so I'm not going to change my sobriety date. My sobriety date then was like May 21st. And
This is when you were 15.
15, yeah. And I like lied, and the reason why I okayed me lying was like, I'm not gonna be sober forever, so like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Cut two, I have like 2.5 years, and I'm like, fuck, like when is that ever gonna come out? And like I get sober, and I'm going to meetings, I have a sponsor, I'm working steps, I'm working like steps I want to work, but like the 4th step, right, the one that everyone's like so scared of, it's just like a lot of writing. That's really all it is, and that's annoying. But I like just lied about pretty much everything, and I think also I really struggled understanding the book, and I don't like, my sponsor at the time was like incredible, and she was so kind to me, but I don't think anyone like went the extra mile to like help me learn
It's
what
hard
this is
being
saying.
that
Yeah.
young and trying to read that book.
It's very difficult.
because it's written by what? How old was Bob when he wrote it?
He was like in his 50s, but it was also written in the 1930s.
And then 20s.
1930s.
Okay, 30s.
Dude,
late
I could barely
20s.
understand Harry Potter back then.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's very archaic and anachronistic language.
yeah, I didn't even know like how to just like, I couldn't even understand Wall Street back then. So how the fuck was I supposed to understand Bill's story? And so I struggled with understanding any of these concepts of it. And
He's using words like teetotaler.
Newsflash. I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, I couldn't understand it, and I did this 4-step, and then like, to me, the 9 step was obviously optional, and the character defects were just like my personality trait. So like,
Right.
what, I didn't have anything to do, and like the 10, 11, and 12 was like, I'm just gonna do 12 by sponsoring people and like feeding my ego through that, and that's all it was. It was just like straight feeding my ego, and I was like that whole time that I was sober, I'm very grateful because I think it kept me alive. And I just was like running off of self-will, and I was a wreck everywhere I went. Everyone knew I was a wreck. I just kind of did whatever I wanted to do all the time. Because when I got sober, my parents after a year were like, she can do whatever. And I did. I literally did whatever I wanted, but sober. And
I remember being at Crave till like 2 a.m. and you were there at like 17. I'm like, where?
whose parents?
daughter?
Yeah. Yeah.
This girl's like 16 years
This girl's a
old.
minor. Why?
Out in LA,
Why
Studio
is
City.
it-
The constant joke was like, 10 o'clock would happen. They're like, Megan, it's past your curfew.
Yeah.
That's your bedtime.
I'd be so mad about it. I was like, no, I can stay. And
Yeah.
like, I just was, I got thrown at 15 years old. I got thrown into this very like adult lifestyle. And I had to, in my mind, I was just like overcompensating for it. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to act like an adult and what I thought an adult was. And that was very wrong. And so I was like not working these steps. Honestly, I didn't really do anything. And I was sponsoring people. Why? I don't know. I had like 10 sponsees. That was no.
The shit.
And I did like a lot of YPAW stuff. I went to all like every event.
Every convention.
And I found my higher power as a male figure. Dated him. And immediately when I got sober, I was like, I have to be in a relationship.
100%. Like
Yeah.
most of us do when they get sober. So we need to get into a relationship.
I
We need to find something other than drugs to satisfy us.
Yeah.
Dude,
And
what was that
isn't
guy's name?
Chandler.
Oh, yeah, that guy sucked.
Yeah.
Hope he's doing well.
I think he's doing well.
Oh, that's
I
good.
don't know.
Chandler, if you're listening to this, you suck.
You used to.
You used to.
You're probably fine now.
No, I'm just kidding.
But I did like the YPAW stuff, right? And like that was like my I worked one part of the triangle, which was fellowship, and I worked the shit out of it. And it wasn't obviously enough to keep me sober. And so when I relapsed, I was like, oh my God, how did this happen? And I what happened prior to that is I actually got sick. I had walking pneumonia. And so I went to the doctor with my mom at 19 years old. If that doesn't paint a picture for you. And I was like, I need you to come with me. She's like, okay. Very codependent relationship. And we were like, I can't have the cough syrup with alcohol in it. They're like, okay, here's like, go to the pharmacy, go to the children's section and get Delsum. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I go and we get the stuff. And mind you, at the time, I like have mental illness and like was not, yeah. Thank you, Aria. I wasn't sleeping. So I'm taking this cough syrup, but also not sleeping. And I maybe would sleep a couple hours here and there. And so what that does is it catches up to you. So it's like double the amount in your system. And all of a sudden I remember I was like at someone's house at like 3 a.m. and you were there. And
Puckett's.
was it? No, I think it
No.
was Garrett. And
Garrett Lalonde.
yeah. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there. I was like, I think I'm fucked up. And this is like sober, right? And I was like, I think I'm fucked up and I don't know. And like, I can't drive. Like to the extent where I knew I couldn't drive anymore. I was with
How
like
much Delsum did you take?
the
I
dose.
remember where we were.
I did take the correct dose.
Okay.
Yeah. But I wasn't sleeping. So nothing was like, and I wasn't eating. And so
Okay.
nothing was like, am I
Just,
maybe
We were at-
metabolizing?
Pause for a second.
We were at Matt Long's, and he was living with what's his name, and also maybe Garrett was staying there. But then you went to Sherry Theater.
No. So that was this was before, and I ended up getting fucked up, and then what happened was it just like set that thing off in my head, and I remember like for a month like white knuckling, like to an extent I couldn't imagine. My name was miserable. I hated everything. Nothing was working out for me, and I was like super depressed, very very manic at the same time, and I ended up just like telling myself like I'm gonna get high. And like committing to that, and I like made a full plan, and I was like, and if I die at the same time, that would be like really cool.
Yeah.
Or I can continue to get high. So either way, this is a very big win for me. And I told myself this, and at the same time, it was very bizarre. I started to forget like very important pieces of my story, and like forgetting like where I came from. I started questioning myself of like, was I really high all the time? Did I actually get high like every day? What did that actually look like? I pretty much like gaslit myself into getting loaded.
Yeah.
And I got high. I went to a meeting, as one does. And I remember being like, this is such like a God is working for me. I went to Sherry Theater. I dropped off 2 people. I went to the Walgreens, and I had $10.35 to my name. I walk in. I buy like 2 bottles of Delsum. There was a deal. I know you'll like that. It was $10.34.
Nice.
And I was like, this is incredible. And I sat in my car and I said, if I'm an alcoholic, I'll drink this. And if I'm not, I won't. It wasn't even 5 seconds for me to be like, who am I kidding? And just like took the bottle back. And then I went to the meeting, and then I like started to get like super fucked up, and then I started to panic. I was like, oh. And then I was like at Crave at one point.
Did you cause a scene in the meeting?
No, I caused a scene at fucking Crave.
No, you also caused a scene after the meeting.
I honestly don't really remember that much.
There was a little bit of a scene.
I remember Ian Datz coming up to me, or someone next to me, and being like, "Is she high?" And like I was like, "That's all." And then it was like a blur, and then I was carried in. I remember this. I could not walk really well, and I was carried like arm on someone's shoulder into Crave, and I was like, what am I doing? And then I was crying at one point. Then I ended up back at home, and then like lights out, right? And then I like came to of like driving, asking my friend to help me put makeup on, and then I was at the Valley Club the next day, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then like more silence again, more black again, and then I'm like standing up as a newcomer at Radford Hall next to like two people that I like didn't really hang out with, and but they were like very supportive, and I remember like feeling that love and support. And I at that time I was like, I don't know what to do, and I wasn't scared. I was just like hopeless, helpless, like completely defeated. And my feet started walking before, and my brain started following, which was a very, like, I look back now and it was like a spiritual experience I had. I didn't have God come and talk to me in a bathroom. Like, that didn't happen for me. I literally just like woke up the next day and I was like, I have to get a medium. Like, that's what I have to do. And I knew I wasn't working. I wasn't doing anything. I had no business literally being anywhere else besides the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's what I did. And I remember the things that I learned in that previous sobriety of like, go to 90 meetings in 90 days, work the 12 steps, be honest, shut the fuck up in meetings, and like do the deed. And I was like, that's the only thing I haven't done. That is the only thing I haven't tried, was like actually doing the program. And I was like, okay, it wasn't like that I wanted to. It was just like, okay, like, it was not me, is like kind of what I'm getting to. It felt like more of like God working in my life, regardless if I was willing to listen or not. It was just happening.
God did for you what you couldn't do for yourself.
Absolutely. And I started like going to meetings. I started sharing. I started talking. And I remember like all my newcomer chips are all chewed on. If you look at them, they're like chewed to the brim. But that 30-day chip, after that, like none of them were chewed. And like that first 30 days was so fucking hard, because I was like, okay, well, if I can get high again, right? And I just come back, I can keep doing that. But something was just like working in my life that didn't happen. And I'm really, really lucky. And I got some, I think I got like 90 days sober. I did the 90 meetings, 90 days. I think I actually did like 86 meetings. Mind you, I did like 3 meetings a day. And I got a sponsor and I started working the steps, and she was like very hard on me of like the first step of like, you really,
first sponsor?
She was my first sponsor in my original sobriety too, Taylor Geisler. And she was very hard on me to understand what the first step meant. And she was very good about like explaining everything to me and like being firm but like loving at the same time. And that's what I needed, because I had no self-esteem. I was so like helpless, hopeless, like all those things I said, so full of shame and like insecurity, and just like hated literally everything about me. And she really helped pull me out of that hole. And I think like about like 6 months in, I became like super apathetic. Like I felt nothing for about a year and a half, like just no feeling. And honestly, that was fucking cool, but also really bad. So I stopped working a program, and I moved down to San Diego, started seeing this guy, and I mean, I was like in a full-blown relationship with this guy. And he ended up, a lot of bad things happened that were like not obviously like, I don't have a part in those things besides like how I acted afterwards. I saw a man die in front of me. I got like assaulted in sobriety, so I know those things are like not of my making.
Wasn't this ex-boyfriend of yours like building guns and shooting heroin on your couch?
Yeah, so I mean that comes next.
Are
and so,
his initials JP?
And so he ends up getting high, and I was I never have been. I've always been the one that was high, right? I don't have any alcohols. I don't have alcohols in my family. No one's an alcoholic. It's just me. And so I never watched like full-blown like addiction happening. And it was one of the most gnarly things I fucking have ever seen. And I worked in treatment. I've seen things. I have friends. I've heard their stories. I have never seen anything like that in my life, where I'm sticking my hand in the couch, pulling out handfuls of rigs. And just like, how did my life turn into this? And like, I moved back to LA. I started going to meetings. I didn't tell anybody that, like, 1, I'm dry as fuck. 2, my boyfriend's on heroin. And like 3, I'm like also like fully had like this full like eating disorder.
Yeah.
And I eventually, somebody asked me, they're like, how's your I think it was Dylan Gordia. He's like, how's your boyfriend? And I was like, good.
He's great.
He's great. And he's like, is he still sober? And I was like, I just had to walk away. Like, couldn't even, like, it was just like coming out of me, right? And eventually and I know how addiction works for me, right? You have to come to me with like full evidence that I'm getting high. You can't ask me if I am. I will lie and gaslight and do all the things. So I tore apart this house, and I like went through like all his stuff, and I figured out that he was getting high and like that he was on heroin. And I like knew, like, I remembered that phrase of you hang out long enough in a barbershop, you're gonna get your hair cut, right? And like I walked into the barbershop with like fucked up hair already. You know what I mean? It was bound to happen. And I was so lucky that I was around so many people during that time that were just like gung-ho on like this like whole God experience, right? Every time I walked into a meeting, I mean, it was you guys, I heard, and of course Darian, shout out. I heard everyone talking about their experience with like a higher power, and I was like, I don't have that. Like, I don't have any of this stuff, and like I am so desperate. It was like I was so dehydrated and desperately needed water. That's what it felt like. Yeah. And I ended up
I feel like that now.
doing all the things, and I ended up breaking up with that boyfriend, and causing a lot of wreckage.
So what are you doing today with your life?
What I'm doing today with my life, I mean, honestly, like, life is kind of like just being life right now, and doing some like sideways things. I feel like I have a pretty like strong connection with my higher power, and I feel that, I mean, I have had like, I needed like very extreme experiences or extreme examples of a higher power working in my life. Sorry, there's a fly. But I say connection because a relationship sounds like too human, like a human, and it's that like confuses my brain when I like talk about God as like humanistic, right? So I have to say like connection. And I see that like God like works in my life, and I like can see the signs very clearly, which is something I couldn't say maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. And I have like little like reminders that I see throughout the day of like I'm on the right path. And like even when things are getting hard, what's really cool, and I think it started at the beginning of my sobriety, is that my feet will walk and my brain will follow, right? I had like a good friend pass away in sobriety, and like the first thing I did is, because I'm like AA military trained, is like go to a meeting, call a newcomer, talk to people, do the thing, right? And I had a bunch of like weird shit happen in the past 2 weeks, and the day that like the cherry on top happened, right, I got a text of like, just want to remind you that you're speaking at a meeting. And I was like, of course that happens, of course, like that, those things are like placed in my life, so I know that I'm on the right path, and I will continue to do the right thing, right? It's like putting like, if you put clean house, help others, trust God,
clean house, help others.
If I do that, I will always be taken care of, and I truly believe that. And I've had experiences that have forced me to lean into faith rather than like my own will, and I know that works, and that has been truly a blessing. And like having like the action, acting and action of AA has been like absolutely game changing, and like not just like my own like AA spirituality life, but like as a basic human being, having a human experience. And okay, this is gonna sound really weird. So when I was talking about like having those God shots, right, of like being in the right place at the right time, I know this is so like LA girl of me, but like I see it through like numbers, right? And I always see like 888, 333, or whatever it is, and I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path. I have a phone call right now. It's 777 and 333, and like that.
You're talking about the angel numbers.
Yeah, and then I got that phone call
because you got the phone call.
Yeah, dude.
And that's like, you know, your thing is like when God is, you know, kind of showing its presence.
Yeah. Which
through
is
angel numbers.
Yeah.
So today you work as like a you work as a mentor today, right?
Yeah, I companion.
You do sober companion. You work for a great company with 2 other sober ladies.
Incredible, yeah.
Tallulah and Lily.
Yeah.
Wonderful people. What's up, Dylan?
Which one's the bathroom?
All the way down.
Doors are closed.
All the way down on the right.
Open
It's right.
doors.
It's on the right. It's on the right. It's on the right. Last door on the right. He needs to use the shitter, and he didn't know which bathroom or which door it was.
I hope he enjoys this experience.
It's going to be one of them. Just open all of them, you know? Anyways, so you work with these 2 wonderful women, Tallulah and Lily, doing this. They just opened their concierge business.
Yeah.
And you're part of that. You're part of the team. So what do they do? What do you guys do? What is their concept? What do you guys do?
What do you guys do?
What the fuck do you do? So, I mean, it's like a companion company. So basically you go in, there's like so many levels because everyone's case is so different. They are like case managing.
Okay.
And then they like hire independent like contractors, i.e. me. This fly is driving me nuts. And then we go in and we like help them with their day to day. And that's kind of what they do. And it's great because it's like a incredible experience working with like just women. And like having that and that all sober women is incredible. And like that are also young and like kind of get it and like are in the kind of like the same lifestyle as I am.
How old is Lou?
28, 29.
She's younger than
Lily's
I am.
24,
Okay.
23, 24,
Yeah.
27.
Yeah.
But it's
You're
cool.
all babies.
It's cool. It's like it's cool watching like people like start their company. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's like it's very interesting how that works. But yeah, I mean, I companion, and you asked me what my like life looks like now.
Yeah.
And it's like I sponsor women. I didn't want to for a long time because I didn't think I had anything to offer.
Yeah.
Which was like, I look back now, obviously that's a lot of fear, right? But that was incredibly selfish of me as well. But I sponsor 2 like amazing women that are so like precious. One lives in like Boston and the other one lives out here. The one who lives in Boston goes to school out there, and it's been like really like they're very similar they have very similar experiences that I have had, and it's funny like watching your sponsees just like go through the same shit, and you're just like, oh my, it's so annoying. It's so annoying, but it gives me like so much like patience and compassion, not just for them, but for like myself, right? Of like that version of myself back then. And then it allows me to have that patience and grace with myself later on. They've taught me a lot more about myself than I thought they could. And I have like this incredible like sober like community. I like I've had sponsors before. I've gone through so many because they were the problem, right? And I have my sponsorship family now is just like so incredible because it's not just like one woman sponsoring these like 6 girls. It's like all of us like joint effort together.
Yeah.
And we all have time, and
No. Oh. Look who came to see us. Look at this.
You're pretty.
Look at this.
Hi, Luke.
Okay. Good. I thought he was going
what's
to
wrong?
knock over.
Why does a dog? Is it a puppy? Why does it run like that?
It's a puppy.
Okay. Puppies run sideways.
I thought I thought it was gonna knock over all the camera equipment.
I know that was pretty stealth-like.
Yeah, very right through there. I was like, no. But yeah, so that's like pretty much all the time we have. Thank you so much, Megan, for coming on the podcast and telling us your story. Like I didn't know a lot of those things about you, and I've known you for years.
I know,
So
because
it's
you don't
like-
listen.
Yes.
As
kidding.
my ex-girlfriend would say.
You're
You
gonna stand
fucking
outside.
listen, Eric.
You're gonna go stand outside her window for the rest of the
I'm
day.
gonna hold a boombox outside her window. No, I really didn't know a lot of this part of your story. I don't think I've heard you share so in depthly about your story, and it was really
She has. You have.
beautiful to hear a lot of like similarities, and like we grew up. I feel like in very similar type of family dynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
Eric's adopted.
You have
too.
a Jewish dad. I have a Jewish dad.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm not adopted, but you're adopted though.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. I am sure. I'm not. You know what? I'm not 100% sure, and I've never done one of those like 23andMe's before.
They're actually really fun.
What if you weren't Jewish?
I just look like this.
He's not Jewish. He just looks like this.
Like,
That's what, oh my god! I'm gonna start telling people that he's not Jewish. He just looks like that.
anyways, why do like adopted kids always have like problems? Is that a stereotype?
Clip this.
No.
Is that a stereotype, or is that like pretty true? Like they
You should
like
clip this.
adopted children, like they always end up having some sort of difficulties in their life.
Hey,
Okay, I
what's
will
your
explain
brother
this.
like?
Okay, so I actually just shared about this when I was speaking. It's so interesting that like both me and my brother are adopted and like different parents, obviously. We were both adopted from like birth. Granted, my parents decided to take their sweet time to come and get me. And my brother like has like I remember feeling like so different all the time and like really desperately trying to understand myself. I don't know if that's like the mental illness in me or what. But my brother never felt that way. My brother never felt that it was important for him to like seek out his biological parents. He never felt different. He never felt weird about it. And like he's like not an alcoholic for what I know. And he like does well and is like pretty like normal and like a good person, I would say.
Yeah.
And then there's like me who took like a different path, and I have looked up like statistics and stuff like that of like why is it that like I mean you can get like really into it, like a bunch of like people that have done terrible things are like adopted. And I think what it is like it does put you like at a percentage risk for like higher mental health issues, right? They say like 14% of people that are adopted end up with a personality disorder. They say that like so basically there's so much like psychology that goes into like having when you first have a baby, right? I was never held, so we already have issues with that, right? So that what that does to a baby is a lot. There could have been not being able to connect emotionally with your caregiver properly. That also could be it. There's like a three things that happen, right? There's the kid that never gets to know what their family what their family is like and never gets to have that experience. The mother who has to give a child away, and then the mother that never got to have the child, like never got to actually like have that experience. And so all that together is like kind of can be a recipe for issues to come up. I also know that like my biological mom like didn't know she was pregnant with me for like months, had no idea. And so like obviously like things were done.
Was she a larger woman?
No, she was like teeny tiny and like didn't show until she was 7 months pregnant. That's what she told me. I have photos of her like with a beer and like pregnant with me.
Oh no.
And like she didn't know. And so I think that there's like a lot of things that obviously go into it of why like a lot of there's like you can even get into it too of like there's like kids with like learning disabilities too because of like with adoption that leads to like alcoholism, right? If you have like ADHD or whatever, there's like the whole psychological DSM for that. But like for me, I think like I was born and like I had a very like addictive personality to begin with. Like everything that I had, everything I did was like to the extreme. I had no cap on like making that stop. And, you know, I don't know. I think like people with like the grave emotional mental disorders are more likely, obviously, to have like drug and alcohol addiction. It's literally written under every single diagnosis in the DSM. Can have these symptoms, right? And I think when you feel a little different and you feel a little off, that is already a recipe for you to experiment with drugs and alcohol. And then there's the people that like didn't have that, right? There's like so many different breeds of alcoholism, right? People that didn't have that, but like got injured, got sick, and then ended up on all these pills. And then what did that turn into? Or like they were fine, their parents got divorced, or all these things can happen. Or everything was fine and dandy, except when they take a sip of alcohol, things go the other way, right? Because all that matters about, all that makes me an alcoholic is the fact that when I put something in my system, I cannot stop. And when there's nothing in my system, I will do anything to put something in my system. And nothing else matters. Like all morals, everything is gone. And so I think that's like kind of like, there's no like, that's why, right? There's a multitude of reasons, you know?
Yeah.
100%.
But not all adopted kids have mental illness and
I never
alcoholism.
said mental illness. I just said, why are they problem childs?
Problem childs, yeah.
Yeah, they all have issues. Some of them, a lot of them have issues. You're just
Dude.
saying-
He's not Jewish. He just looks like this.
Anyways, so yeah, just walk in front of the camera. Just edit it in post. But anyways, thank you so much, Megan, for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate you. So lovely to have you here, and hear your story. Anything you want to say?
He's not Jewish. He just looks like this.
We'll.
But thank you for coming and
Of course,
being a part of this with us.
Hello.
And yeah, that's it. And we'll tag you and everything, and so people could find you and all that stuff. And
I'm really looking for stalkers right now.
yeah, I know. Megan,
Please try to scam me with sugar daddy things.
Megan's like TikTok famous, pretty much. So hopefully she'll share these videos, and we'll get more famous.